The story of Ish-Bosheth also teaches us not to be over-anxious about bodily things, and not to rely on the senses to protect us. He was a king who went to rest in his chamber, leaving a woman as doorkeeper. When the men of Rechab came, they found her dozing off as she was winnowing wheat. So, escaping her notice, they slipped in and slew Ish-Bosheth while he was asleep. 2 Samuel chapter 4, verse 5 through 8. Now, when bodily concerns predominate, everything in man is asleep, the intellect, the soul, and the senses. For the woman at the door winnowing wheat indicates the state of one whose reason is closely absorbed in physical things, and trying with persistent efforts to purify them. It is clear that this story in Scripture should not be taken literally. For how could a king have a woman as doorkeeper when he ought properly to be guarded by a troop of soldiers and to have around him a large body of attendants? Or how could he be so poor as to use her to winnow the wheat? But improbable details are often included in a story because of the deeper truth they signify. Thus the intellect in each of us resides within like a king, while the reason acts as doorkeeper of the senses. When the reason occupies itself with bodily things, and to winnow wheat is something bodily, the enemy without difficulty slips past unnoticed and slays the intellect. This is why Abraham did not entrust the guarding of the door to a woman, knowing that the senses are easily deceived. For they take pleasure in the sight of sensory things, and so divide the intellect and persuade it to share in sensual delights, although this is clearly dangerous. But Abraham himself sat by the door, Genesis chapter 18, verse 1, allowing free entry to divine thoughts, while barring the way to worldly cares. What advantage do we gain in life from all our useless toil over worldly things? Is not all man's labor for the sake of his mouth? Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 7. Now, according to the apostle, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 8, food and raiment are all we need to maintain our humble flesh. Why then, as Solomon asks, do we labor endlessly for the wind? Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 16. Through our anxiety about worldly things, we hinder the soul from enjoying divine blessings, and we bestow on the flesh greater care and comfort than are good for it. We nourish it with what is harmful, and thus make it an adversary, so that it not only wavers in battle, but because of overindulgence, it fights vigorously against the soul, seeking honors and rewards. What in fact are the basic needs of the body that we use as a pretext when indulging in endless succession of desires? Simply bread and water. Well, do not the springs provide running water in abundance, while bread is easily earned by those who have hands? In this way we can satisfy the needs of the body while suffering little or no distraction. And does our clothing call for much care? Again, no, if we reject a stupid conformity to fashion and consider only our actual needs. For what fine spun clothing What linen or purple or silk did the first man wear? Did not the Creator command him to wear a coat of skins and to eat herbs? Genesis chapter 3 verse 18 and verse 21. Such were the limits he set to the needs of the body, far different from the civilized shamelessness of today. I am not arguing here that he who feeds the birds of the air and clothes the lilies of the field with such glory will certainly provide also for us if we pursue holiness. For those who are still far from real faith in God cannot as yet be persuaded by this argument. But who, when asked, will refuse to give what is needful to one who lives a holy life? The barbarous Babylonians who took Jerusalem by force showed respect for the holiness of Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 40, verse 4 and 5, and provided him abundantly with all his bodily requirements, giving him not only food, but the vessels with which it was the custom to serve guests. Surely then, our own fellow countrymen, since they are not totally barbarous, will appreciate goodness and admire what is holy, and so will show respect for our ascetic life. Even if they themselves cannot follow the ascetic way, owing to the weakness of their nature, at least they hold this way in honor and venerate those who pursue it. What persuaded the Shunammite woman to build a chamber for Elisha, and to put there a table, bed, and candlestick? 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 10. Was it not Elisha's holiness? And what made the widow, when the whole country was ravaged by famine, place the needs of the prophet before her own? Kings chapter 17 verses 10 through 16. Had she not been amazed by Elijah's spiritual wisdom, she would not have deprived herself and her children of what small material solace still remained to them and given it to him. She expected, in any case, to die before long, but in her generosity to the stranger she was ready to do so even before the time came.